Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Let's see if it shows up on Facebook.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that.
Oh, good morning, everyone. I'm over here talking unmuted.
Man, I need an Oscar mic because it sounds so professional.
Oh, thanks.
I'm over here with my headphones.
I don't know that it's showing. It's showing. Okay, cool. Awesome.
All right, so we're live, guys.
We are live.
Heck yeah, we're live, guys. Where's all the energy at, man? All right, so we're live. What's going on here?
I need some fires in the chat.
I know, for real.
We should have started with some music.
Yeah, put some fires in the chat so we know you guys are ready to learn some multifamily. Can I comment on my own stuff? Let me see.
I am.
You know what? I will too.
We're pumping each other up here.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so this whole week we've been talking about like how can we add more value to people and how can we put ourselves out there? Like how can we let people know what we're doing? And I think I'm going to let KJ and Joseph talk on this a little bit about our goals and what we're looking for. And then I'll let Carolyn jump in after to talk about what her and I were working on yesterday on this little flyer and everything. And then we'll kind of just jump in there. But KJ, Joseph, can you guys talk about like our goals and what we're looking for and why multifamily?
Okay. So our goals that we recently set, it took a mindset change to even write these goals down or believe that they're even attainable. Just because we've all been thinking small and we realized we need to be thinking way bigger. And so we all collectively decided that by next July, we want to have 1,000 units. Our focus Texas markets. We want to have, class A, B, or C with value add, and we want to be financially free in 1 year. And how we got to this goal, or do you want to explain, babe, why we got to this goal and like why we chose multifamily?
We chose multifamily because it has such flexibility to scale and produce value for yourself, right? It is a massive cash cow that has a lot of opportunities and a lot of diversibility as well. I don't know, man. There's so many different things that you could do with multifamily and make yourself so much more money and become financially free and stable, produce generational wealth at a much faster rate. So we figured, why not? Why not now? What's the reason that we can't go after multifamily? And there really wasn't a reason why we couldn't. And there's really nothing stopping us, especially now that we have, the right people in place and we have the right team members that we're working with to, make those goals attainable. So why not, right? What's the reason? What's holding you back? There shouldn't be anything other than the unknown. And how do you solve the unknown? Is you go and figure things out. You go ask the right questions, get in the right rooms, talk to the right people. I mean, that was really the only thing that was stopping us, and we've done that, and we're doing that currently. So,
Yeah, and Joseph, when you say like, it being like really good when it comes to like potential and like money and that kind of stuff, can you give us like an example if I were to increase rents on a 50 unit by $100? Can you give us a quick math on what that looks like? So if someone says, well, what do you mean by money? Like how much money are you looking at? Give everyone an example of what we're talking about here.
absolutely. How many units are we talking?
50 units. And all we need to do is increase the rents by $100.
Absolutely. So if we were to increase a 50 unit building by $100 each unit, that's 50 units. So that's 50 times 100, and then take it by the occupancy rate, which we always want to assume a 5% vacancy. So it's 95% occupied times the amount of months. That's a potential of 57,000, right? And we
Yep.
divide that by the cap rate. So let's just assume 5% cap rate. That's pretty standard in most places, anywhere 5 to 8. So let's divide that by our 5% cap rate. That is $1,140,000 in value just by increasing the rents $100 each.
So you're telling me, Joseph, that if I found a deal where I can increase the rents by $100 and it's a 50 unit, then I'm looking at about $1 million in upside. And how many properties is that?
That's one property. One property, one address, one property manager, not 50, not 100, not 25, one.
One property. One property, guys. So is that, Joseph, is that why you're not doing single family anymore?
Absolutely. I mean, it's so much easier to manage and control and increase your potential. I mean, that's $100. I mean, there's so many opportunities out there to raise it at least $100. Everything else on top of that is just extra.
Amazing. And I think that that's why we're on multifamily. I mean, that's one property, guys. It's just amazing. Like once, just like our mentor keeps saying, like once you see that math, you cannot unsee it anymore. Amazing. Is there anything else you guys want to add before we jump on to the other one? KJ, Joseph, Carolyn?
I think I want to say is I realized too, you're doing all the same amount of work. Why not get paid way more? And it was very intimidating at first. And it's taken a lot of time to just get uncomfortable, put myself in situations that I don't know, and just push past I don't know, just like getting uncomfortable. I mean, that's what it takes to be in this business. So I know there's a lot of people who are maybe in their comfort zone with the single family, which we were too, but we were like, single family doesn't make me happy. I'm tired of constantly being on the hamster wheel, deal after deal after deal. And now people bring me deals, and honestly, I don't even want to look at them. If I don't have a top buyer in mind, well, I don't have time for that. It takes away from what we're working on here. And we're all learning to be very mindful of our time and our energy now, because in order to achieve our goals, we have to set boundaries. So I think it just felt good to be able to know what we're aligned with and what our goals are going to be and how we're going to get there, and just having that mindset. I don't know why I constantly say that mindset shift. It's been really eye-opening and exciting because I don't know, single family just wasn't for me, and now I feel like we're doing what we should be doing, and I'm excited to see where this goes.
100%. I think you said it right. I mean, how long did it take us guys to finally be focused on what we were wanting to do? Because you hit on some good things, KJ. You said that people were throwing you some deals and you were kind of everywhere, but now you're focused and now you know what you want. How long did it take us to really find out what it is that we want to do and stay focused on it?
Man, we really just figured it out this week.
I know. I think it was this week where we really were like, okay, go through Podio. Nope, not a line. I think it took us until like our mentor told us, like, if it does not fit this box, do not waste time on it. And I think us go-givers here, we're like, oh, let's see if we can make it work and find a buyer. But then we didn't realize how much energy and time it was taking away doing that. So I'm excited that we all figured that out this week.
For sure. Anything else you guys want to add? Carolyn, anything you want to add?
Just going back to the point of the amount of work it takes to even do multifamily, like transitioning from single family to multifamily. I was having a conversation yesterday with someone, and even within the multifamily space, they're like, I'm working on a 20, I was working on a 20 unit, but it's like it takes the same amount of effort to underwrite a 20 unit as it would a 100 unit. So why not go for a 100 unit, right? Um, and so it was just like, I think we have this block sometimes about what we can do, and like, oh my gosh, it's going to take so much more effort and all of these things. And initially, yes, multifamily is a whole different type of monster to get into, but I mean, once you get going with it and start learning and get a good grasp at it, it's like the sky is the limit, like, so that's what I had to say about it.
Perfect. I love that. It
Yeah.
does take the same amount of time, just like KJ and Carolyn said, to do single family than it does multifamily. So we love that we're focused on it. Everyone say hi to my mama. She's on watching this.
Hi, Mom.
Hi. Hi, Oscar's mom.
Shout out to my mom. Thank you for giving me life, for being here. Thank you for pointing me in the right direction. Cool, guys. Yeah, I think it was like a little tough at first, kind of like what KJ and Carolyn was saying, that we had a bunch of deals coming in. We had a lot of things that we were looking at, but just like Joseph said about last week, we really got focused on what we wanted to do. So we cleaned up a lot of our like our deals that were in our podio, and now we're really laser focused on what we want to do. So I think KJ had mentioned it earlier. Our goal is 1,000 units by July of 2023, and we're putting it out there because we are claiming it, and also we want to do deals with you guys because we are a team that when we first started, everyone here um, was interested in doing multifamily, but we figured out that it's hard to do multifamily by yourself. It really is. It's a team sport. And why would you do it by yourself anyway? Like I love, just like KJ, KJ keeps saying this, like I love coming into work because we're working with partners and basically best friends is what we're doing. Right? We choose to work with the people that we want to work with. And that's something in itself that we, that we're blessed to have. So we're focused, we're driven, we're doing it as a team, and everyone has their superpower here. So let's segue into the things that we were talking about, Carolyn, the multifamily basics, and let's talk a little bit more about that. Did we want to
Yeah,
share that, or did we just want to go over it?
I shared the document in Facebook just a few minutes prior to us going live here, just as kind of a precursor to what we had. I don't know if we can share it in
I
the
think
chat.
you should be able to. You can share your screen.
See if I can. Let me see if I can drop the document in here. But what Oscar and I were working over yesterday was just, we've had so many students and non-students alike reaching out to us, and they're like, how do I get started? What do I say? I don't know, it's all this transition from single family to multifamily, and it just feels very daunting. And I mean, even for us, it feels daunting at some point, but like, we're like, let's create some sort of guide, some sort of document to where if you're like me or Oscar, you don't want to be stuck watching Zooms all day,
Right.
even though we recommend you to go, if you're a student, go to the Kajabi Vault and watch all the multifamily series Zooms just to familiarize yourself before you start jumping in, or for those of you that want to familiarize that way. For Oscar and I, we're more of the people that were just like, I'm just going to like, I'll look at a Zoom for a little bit, but I want to like actually talk to someone or
Right. Learn as you go.
learn as you go. And that's how I felt when it was in single family. So we created a document. Sorry, I'm like trying to find the thing
Well, you're
still.
fine.
But we created a document on just like a basic script on how to talk to multifamily brokers. Basically, I think there's broker outreach and there's direct to seller outreach. And obviously, we want to be as close to the seller as possible. So, yeah, we love direct to seller for sure. But in the case of free, easy way to get in touch with multifamily directly, just go to like loopnet.com or what's the other one?
Crexy.
Crexy.
Hmm.
And just start talking to brokers. It's kind of like calling FSBOs in a way. In that sense where you're like just trying to get your bearings, but like you never know. We had a few conversations yesterday about people are just very open to sending us financials and seeing what we could do and underwrite them and everything. So we thought, okay, I am like not finding this document for some reason. I can't multitask right now. But yeah,
I'll touch up a little bit on that too, because I think a lot of people get hung up on why they can't talk to brokers or sellers in the multifamily space because they don't know what to say. All right.
yes.
And I think this goes back to when we first did our first live on how to talk to brokers is you want to get to know a little bit. You want to get to know what multifamily is at least a little bit. Like you want to know what to say and some of the verbiage and terminologies that go with multifamily, just like you do in the single family space. Like if you're an investor, you want to know what ARV stands for, right? You want to know what MAO stands for. You want to know what the comps look like. You need to know that stuff. And it's the exact same thing in multifamily. It is a different beast all in itself. But once you get those basic terminologies that down, right, like you can talk to these brokers. So like one of the common things that a broker will ask you is, what kind of cap rate are you looking for? Right.
Yeah.
And then they'll ask you, like, what class building are you looking for? What's your budget? What's the unit count that you're looking for? And things like that, right? And I may be missing a few more basic terms, but I think Carolyn and I covered the basics of what you
Yeah.
need to know when you talk to a broker. So that way, if you have that in front of you, you know those basic terms, you can at least get a conversation down and get to that point where you get those 3 critical documents that we're going to talk about here in a second.
Yeah. I'm trying to drop this in the chat. I pulled it up from our text messaging because it's not working. But in the document, if you search my name, Carolyn Briley, in the Sub2 community, I just recently made a post, and it has the basic outreach for multifamily document attached to it, and it goes through a multifamily script. It goes through the financials that are needed. And then it has some like very basic definitions. And I like keep saying basic because this is very basic. We could go super in depth, but for those people who just like want to start making phone calls and like immerse themselves and like ready, fire, aim type of people, this is what we came up with for you. So you'll scroll through it. It's like 5 pages and it'll have a script. It will have a follow-up response for email to like recap what your conversation was with the broker that you spoke to. And then it has some like third-party story stuff. And obviously you can tweak it and embellish it how you would like to. And then going into the financials needed, and I think that's what Oscar was wanting to touch on, the documents that are absolutely necessary that we need to begin underwriting a multifamily asset.
Yeah. And let me see if I can pull it up. I think I have it here, Carolyn.
Okay.
Before we do that, do you guys want to answer this question real quick in the chat?
Are you guys targeting certain markets, value add strategy, or stabilized properties bought as a syndication or with partners? So our targeted markets right now, we work across the Sun Belt. So like Arizona, Texas, North Carolina, Florida. But we're really looking into any landlord friendly state. Like we have a lot of buyers that focus on the Sun Belt area, but any landlord friendly state, it's typically guys hop in there wrong or if I'm missing anything in that state. But we definitely want to look at value add strategy, value add investment properties, which means we have the capability to raise the rents. We have the capability to add in opportunities or amenities like paid for parking or pet fees or putting a laundromat in and paying for that. And there's so many different types of value add, but obviously the main one would be to raise the rents.
Absolutely. And then they ask value add strategy or stabilized properties bought as a syndication or with partners. We do both. So depending on what partners we bring it to, we would either syndicate it or do it with our partners. And I think the Corpus Christi one, if anybody wants to touch up on that, kind of how we structured it, that's with partners. It is not a syndication.
Right. Yes. So with the Corpus Christi deal, it is with a partner. Our partner is Pace. We're very fortunate and grateful that we get to partner with Pace on our first multifamily deal. And yeah, what else, guys? Oh, great. There we go. Okay.
That's pretty much it to it.
Yeah. So let's touch up on this real quick. This is the form that Carolyn and I were working on, mainly Carolyn. So shout out to Carolyn. But
Oscar, would you be able to zoom in a little bit?
yes, I can. This is the script that we use typically just to get someone new who's super new, right? Can use. It's really short and simple. The way I've been doing it is I call a broker and I simply just go by the script and like, hey, whatever the broker name is, my name's Oscar. How are you doing today? Do a little small talk, whatever you want to do. And then I'll get right into it. I was like, I'm calling you because my partners and I are looking to buy multifamily apartment buildings. We're looking for 40 plus units in Dallas, whatever your market is. Would you have anything that hasn't hit the market yet? And that's it. That's all I ask. And that gets the conversation going. Obviously, you'll take it from there, right? It's like, okay, thanks, bye. No, and like you keep going, right? You try to, the whole point for you to talk to these brokers is one, to get yourself out there. And two, I think we all here have the same agenda, but like we besides from what we're looking for, we want to build that relationship with the broker. That's the key thing, is that you want to build that relationship, because these guys, even if this deal, whatever deal they bring to you, it doesn't work, they can bring you future deals depending on your relationship. So it's key to have that relationship with the broker, because the deal that you guys may be working on now doesn't work, but if they have another one that hasn't hit the market and they like you and they want to talk to you, they'll bring it to you first. So you'll have the first right of refusal whether or not you want to do this deal. And that's key, because a lot of these bigger units, especially 40 plus, are through brokers. And that's the majority of how we get our deals. We do direct to seller, but a lot of the times when it's a huge or bigger deal, they'll go through brokers. So this is why it's key to start talking to brokers when it comes to multifamily. And then here's our criteria, right? Like if they ask you, well, what are you guys looking for? Well, we have our criteria here, and this is for us guys. So, I mean, you guys can definitely leverage us and use the same criteria when you're starting off. But, this is what we're looking for: 40 plus units, class A, B, or C, cap rates between 5 to 8%. And we'll go through some of this verbiage so you guys know what we're talking about. Value add opportunities in landlord friendly states. And we want landlord friendly states, guys. We don't want anything that is not a landlord friendly state. We'll get into the technicals maybe later in a different video, but just to say that we love Texas. Okay.
Yeah.
Home sweet home.
Yep.
And then sometimes they'll want to ask you, like, do you guys have any experience? Like, tell me a little bit about yourself, just to kind of vet you, because they get a lot of people calling them, right? Just like in single family, a lot of sellers get a lot of potential buyers calling them, and they want to know if you're serious. It's the exact same thing. So if you're already doing wholesaling or you have an operation in single family, this will be basically the same thing, same type of call. It's just adding credibility to what you're doing and what you're saying. So for example, our partners with our mentor, we leverage their properties and what they've done. So for example, if someone asks me, well, what have you guys done? I'll tell them, well, we just recently acquired 50 units in Tennessee, 48 units in Georgia. And this is true because we're working on a 204 units in San Antonio. And that automatically lets them know that we're serious, right? Because we own properties and we leverage our partners. It's the same thing if you're in sub two, you leverage the community, you leverage the partners, you leverage pace, same thing, right? And what is this about? Okay, if you have anything, okay, gotcha. So yeah, basically it's a continuation. So we tell them this, and then if you have anything that meets our criteria, let us know. We're buying aggressively and looking for off-market opportunities as part of the script as well. Feel free to reach out via email or text. Looking forward to speaking with you. And then I have an email response that we kind of drew up so that if you have to email a broker like your buy box, then you just let them know exactly what we talked about at the top.
Yeah. It's just kind of reiterating what that was prior. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so one question I've gotten a lot lately, and we may have covered this at another time, but why 40 plus units? Why start there?
Do you want to answer that, Joseph, or do you want me to answer it?
Yeah, I can answer that. 40 plus units. Why start there? The reason we start there is because we don't want to manage it ourselves. If it's less than 40 units, then having a property manager, in most cases, not all, there are some very few exceptions, but in most cases, less than 40 units, we wouldn't really be able to have a property manager and still be cash flowing the way we want to cash flow. So 40 units is pretty much like that minimum amount, that bottom dollar amount to
Why
where
40 plus units? Why start there?
I think there's
A lag.
some replay. Yeah. Anyways, that's the reason why. Because we don't want to manage it ourselves. We want to pay a property manager to manage it for us so we don't have to physically stay at the property forever.
Got it. Awesome.
That's right. So why did we buy the 30 plus units in Corpus Christi then? If it's not 40.
Banging deal. There were multiple reasons. One, that was before we fully found our alignment. That was definitely before that. Two, it is a really, really good deal, and it's on seller finance. So the fact that it's on seller finance definitely makes it a lot more appealing. And we have Pace as our partner too.
Yeah,
So that
100%.
helps.
Is there anything else we need to do before we skip over to the next section?
I think we can go to the next section.
Okay.
If anybody has questions, just type them in the chat and we can answer.
Also, guys, I realize that when we get comments on Facebook, us responding on YouTube, they can't see it.
Oh, you're right. And I'm over
Yeah.
here responding. Okay.
I know. We've been responding to you guys, but on YouTube, we didn't realize it.
My bad.
Was there a question?
Thank you, Barbara Christie, for posting the link.
Lorena asked if there's a weekly meeting. So we just said that we'll be streaming several times a week. We're going to start just recording everything we're doing, broker calls, education, information, whatever it is that we're going to be dealing with and going through. We decided as a team it's best that we start putting ourselves out there. And I think it'd be cool to look back a year from now and see how far we've come too. So it'd be pretty cool.
For sure. And so what are the 3 documents, KJ, that someone would need to start underwriting a multifamily deal?
So you would need an OM, which is an offering memorandum. It's basically what a broker is going to put together to present the deal as like this pretty package to you. It's going to have all the details about the deal, where the property is located, comps. It's going to have some of the rents, just like basic stuff about the rent, nothing in detail. It's going to give you a lot of it's going to be like per forma. It's going to tell you what it can perform at. So it's good information, but it's not as important as getting the rent rolls and the T12. So a T12 is a trailing 12, which just means it's the most recent 12 months of income and expenses. And that really gives us the story of what's going on with the property. So when we ask for this information and they give us picked months out of the year, that's a red flag. It's like, what are you hiding in those months that you're not sharing with us? And they only give us, like, sometimes they'll give us only 2021. And I'm like, well, we're halfway through 2022. Why aren't we getting 2022? What's going on? Especially when people know they're about to sell. Sometimes they stop doing certain things or certain things change. So we want to be able to see what's going on in the property. They can say what they want, all they want, right? Brokers are on the seller side. They are going to do whatever it takes to sell the deal and make money. So that's why we need these T12s, rent rolls, and also a P&L statement, just because that's the real story of what's going on in the property, and nobody wants to get into something that you don't know what's going on.
Yeah. And can you touch about a little bit about the rent roll?
Yes. So a rent roll is just the rent rates over the past 12 months or however long they give you. So that way you can see what is it actually renting for? Is there actually potential to raise the rents? Because if they already have it at market rent, then that's not something that you can have for value add, because you're looking for ways that you can have value add. How can I buy this property and then right off the get-go go and raise the rents and make $1 million, like Joseph was showing, raising $100 for 50 units made
Sure.
$1,140,000. So you want to look for these opportunities and see where can I come in and make more money. So that's the amazing thing about multifamily, is that you can do these things. With single family, you can't buy the property, come in and make $1 million. So
For sure. Do we also have a pro forma for multifamily? Yes. There's always a pro forma for multifamily. That's what you'll see in most offering memorandums and the OMs when you get those presented to you. So a little bit about us guys, like in our team, it's very well balanced. So we have 6 people, right, in our team, and 3 of us are visionaries. If you guys have read Rocket Fuel, you know what I'm talking about. 3 of us are visionaries and 3 of us are integrators. So from an integrator standpoint, we've got an integrator right here that's on our podcast right now, Joseph. So from an integrator standpoint, when you have the T12, the rent rolls, and the OM, what is it that you're looking for in these financials?
So when we have those documents, what we're looking for is we're trying to figure out how much money the property is making. Where is it making that money? Like, is that coming from just rents? Is that coming from head fees, laundry? Where is the money coming from? And then how how much of that money is actually being kept, and how much of it is going to expenses? Are there any red flags in the T12s and the rent rolls? Like, is there missing payments for certain tenants? Are there holes where the capex jumps up or drops really low? The capex is capital expenditure, is basically the amount of money that is being used to fix up a property. It's basically your renovation budget. That's one good example of capex. But that's what we're looking for, is different things that tell a story. We're trying to figure out what's going on with the property, and we're using these documents to figure out what's going on and to figure out where we need to be asking questions. Like, if we see that the expenses jumped up really, really high in May. Okay, well, what happened in May? Now it's a question that we have. We go back to the broker, or if it's to the seller, we go to the seller. Hey, Mr. Broker. Hey, Mr. Seller. What's the reason that there was a very high lack of profit? We didn't make any money this month. What's the reason that happened? Were you guys doing renovations? Did you lose tenants? What was the story? And we can use that to not only find out the story, but kind of figure out what they're willing to tell us. How honest is the broker or seller being with us? We want to gauge that conversation, because we really want to work with the people that are being as honest as possible, right? And most brokers, they're gonna fluff up the deal. They're gonna make it sound good. They want to, all like Kay just said, they're on the seller side, so they want to make sure that the seller sells it to the highest dollar so they can get the highest dollar for themselves. They're going to fluff it up, 100%. Just expect that.
Yeah.
But that is 100% what we're looking for when looking at these documents. We're trying to find out the story and how much money this property is making, so we can figure out if there's room for us to make money, and if not, we want to find that out as fast as possible to go to the next one.
For sure. And I think that's kind of what I wanted you to explain to them is that it really tells a story on what's actually happening on that property once you get those financials, right? So there's no more like numbers don't lie, right? So if those numbers come in and there's like a huge like drop in price or rents or whatever it may be, then you have that information in front of you and you can say, hey, go back to the broker or the seller, like what happened here? And I think you hit all the points for sure. So take when you get those documents, guys, they'll paint a different picture and let you know whether or not it's a good deal or bad deal, or if they've been telling you the truth or not.
And
Justin says, I was watching a call Oscar did recently, and the broker asked you, are you a syndicator? Oscar answered, no, I'm a principal. Can you explain the difference and why to represent yourself as one rather than the other? So syndicator and someone, you know, I'm a student at all times, so this may sound a little ignorant, meaning I don't know, but a syndicator is someone who's raising capital for a specific fund, and in this case, it would be real estate. So like for a multifamily or whatever, that's what a syndicator would do. They're looking for either raising capital or they have a fund ready to put the money into a deal. So that's why they would ask that, like, are you a syndicator? Because they're looking for a deal to put the money, right? Principal meaning that you are the actual buyer for this particular deal. Okay, and that's what I told them is no, I am not a syndicator. I am just a principal, meaning I'm a buyer. It's just the lingo that people use in multifamily. So hopefully that answers your question.
one
Anything
thing I
else?
wanted to, sorry,
No, go
yes.
ahead.
As a visionary, I wanted to go back to the documents and touch on the offering memorandum, the OM, because yes, it is a lovely document that you should receive from the broker, and it should all like what KJ said, it should be presented in a pretty little package. But also, like, don't rely on that for everything. Like, oh, you really like, if the OM wasn't there, you still need your T12, your P&L, and your rent roll. Like, those are the core things because those are going to tell you everything. The OM is like kind of what the broker is doing. It's like the fluffed up, the pretty presentation of everything. So even like we've run across times where we're looking at the OM and all the numbers, and it doesn't match the T12 in the P&L and like the actual numbers or even the pro forma numbers. Like, it's still, there's discrepancies in there. So when you're looking at those things and you're diving into it and you're learning more, just be aware that the OM is that, yes, very pretty little package, and sometimes can cutely mislead you on what the numbers actually are.
100%. And don't forget, guys, that this is for you talking to a broker. So if you're dealing direct to seller, they may not have an OM, right? So they will have a T12 if they're savvy and if they have their books, right? If they're not mom and pop, they'll have some sort of T12 provided by their property management company and a rent roll. But if you're talking to a direct to seller, they may not have the OM. Brokers do. Okay, and if they don't have any of this information, then that's a whole different story.
Mm-hmm. It happens though.
Those are red flags, yeah.
For sure. And so here are some basic definitions, basic verbs or verbiage. Verbiage is what I meant to say. Basic terminologies that you want to talk, that you want to know when you talk to brokers or anything in multifamily. And these are very basic, guys. I mean, this is like what you need to know when you talk to brokers. Like NOI, I think everybody in the chat knows, but we'll go over it anyway. Like net operating income is what it stands for. And all you do to calculate that is you take your income minus your expenses, and that equals your net operating income. So NOI, that's all that means. It's pretty straightforward. Cap rate, measures used to estimate and compare the rates of return on multiple commercial real estate properties. And the way you calculate that is you take your NOI, you divide that by the property asset value, and that gives you your cap rate.
What's the property asset value? How do people find that? If there's a simple way to explain that.
I would say there's two things you can do. For example, you can reverse engineer the cap rate that they used on a property. So if you knew their NOI and if you know what they're asking for, like their purchase price, then you can do NOI divided by their purchase price, and it'll give you the cap rate that they use for that particular property. And I guess we can do a quick example. I mean, let's see. Give me an NOI, anybody, just an NOI for the year.
Just
Any number.
do 200,000.
200,000 NOI. Okay, and give me a purchase price for, I don't know, any purchase price.
Do 22 million.
22 million. So I do 200,000 divided by 22 million. And that gave me 0.009. So a 9% cap rate is what you use, Joseph, for that particular property.
Yeah, I think it's actually 0.9%. That's a really,
yeah, sorry,
good
0.9%. Yeah.
That's unheard of.
Yeah. You're tripping, bro.
Yeah. Those numbers are crazy.
Like, where are you getting those numbers, man?
0.9% cap rate is what Joseph used to run that particular property.
So
And then if
tells you that
you wanted to, and if you wanted to get like the actual, like a better feel, like if you're in real estate and if you know what MAO stands for, maximum allowable offer, if you wanted to get something similar to that, you would just take the same NOI that Joseph gave me, 200,000, and you would divide it by the actual market cap rate in that area. So what would be the market cap rate in this particular property, Joseph?
Let's say it's a class C, so let's do 7%.
Okay, so 200,000 divided by 7%. So you were asking how much?
22 million, I believe.
So you're looking at 2 million as your MAO.
Yeah, you're way up, bro. You got Florida prices.
Yeah, so whoever the seller is asking 22 million, and that property is only bringing in 200,000. Yeah, they are totally not on the same playing field. That is not a deal.
Yeah, and that's how easy we can underwrite a deal for you guys, like at high level. So if you have deals that you're looking to you need help with, bring it to us, and we'll gladly underwrite it real quick for you to see if it makes sense. For this particular deal, sorry, Joseph, you have the wrong person here. It's not a good deal. 0.9% cap rate. I don't know where you're gonna find that, bro.
Yeah, no way.
Okay. So the different types of building class, right? You've got class A, class B, and class C. And it's pretty self-explanatory. Class A being like your newest, highest quality, great location, high quality tenants, luxury, same thing. Class B, it's in a good location. Building is well maintained, good tenants. It's a step down from class A. And then class C is your lower classification, least desirable, needs extensive work, and so on and so forth for the building class. So it's pretty straightforward. KJ, what class buildings are we looking at for our buy box?
A, B, or C. Our mentor told us that B usually doesn't exist, just because if it's a B, either they're going to push it to an A, or usually it's just a C. So yeah, because it's either a C, or like if it's a B, they're going to say, oh, it's a class A, and try to get something out of it. So most of the time you don't see B very often. I mean, you still do, but you see A and C more often than not. So we just want to be able to cover all three, and at least have the opportunity to say no, rather than missing out on opportunities to look at them. So we'll look at all three of them.
Is there a class D?
I'm pretty sure that there is, but those are just classified as not so good areas, like straight up in the hood, really needs a lot of work. It basically, this building may as well just be torn down and put something else there.
Like really, really bad.
Really bad.
Could we take that class D, Joseph, and make it into a haunted house and make money on it?
That's probably the best way to go about it. But for us, we want to stay as far away from those as possible.
Halloween's coming up, so it might not be a good idea if you have a Class D in your hand, guys. Gabrielle says, I have one to practice on. Like, if you have a deal, bring it. Let's do it. All right. Whisper price. I did a call yesterday, and I actually used Whisper price. And brokers knew what I'm talking about. And it's basically what it says on here. Brokers often whisper the highest price to the unrepresented buyer in order to give buyer an edge to win the sale. So yesterday I was like, hey, so-and-so, what's the whisper price on it? He goes, it's whispering about 6 point something million right now. And that gave me an idea of what people are bidding on the property. And I don't remember what the purchase price on the property was, but it gave me an edge, and now I know where they're at. And so I can go back, run numbers, and be like, okay, they have a offer at 6 million, right? What can we do? And so it gives you an edge when you ask these questions to the broker. You can find out what they're bidding on.
I think we'll have to do a video just on talking to brokers, especially after what we learned yesterday. We got a lot of golden nuggets that will level us up for sure.
For sure. I mean, you can send it to either one of us. I mean, it doesn't matter who on Facebook, or should we have them send it to our what you call it, our email or Podio? What do you guys think?
I was going to find the Podio link to drop in there. And
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's the best way to go about it. That way it goes straight into the Podio and we see it there. You just send that web form.
Perfect. I'll let you guys do that while we'll explain occupancy rate. KJ, do you want to go over this real quick?
Sure. So occupancy rate is the percentage of total apartment units that are occupied. So on the OM, a lot of times they like to say it's 100%. And then you go look at the rent rolls and then you're like, no, it's not 100%. We even had one where it looked like half of the units were not being paid, or they were either vacant. And so, because we were looking at the dates that the lease was over or ended, and we were like, okay, what's going on here? Is it vacant, or are these people month to month and not paying? Like, what is going on here? So, like, being able to recognize these things, ask these questions, kind of give you a better story, because it's like, why does the OM say it's almost 100% occupied, but then now we're looking at the rent rolls and it's telling us a whole different story? And one thing we did learn is sometimes, I don't know why they do this, but sometimes properties will have their tenants pay on like an anniversary date versus like the first of every month. So they were saying that is why like they look like they weren't being paid. It's because they weren't paid yet, supposedly. But this is something that you want to look at, because if it's a super, super low occupancy rate, like one time we had a deal that was 25% occupied. We're like, okay, why? What's going on here? Like, that's an issue. Like, either it's having to do with the property itself, or it's the property management, or is it the location? It kind of raises red flags and makes you question, like, okay, like, you're basically an investigator doing this kind of job, which is fun. You're like, okay, what's the story? What's going on? What are you lying about? What are you not telling me? And if it's a higher occupancy rate, maybe like 90%, well, that's 10%. That's area for you to come in and maybe put some more tenants in, maybe for you to make it a little nicer, fix it up, and then be able to raise the rents too. So it kind of gives you an idea of how the property is performing with the occupancy rate. So it's kind of an indicator of like, okay, is there an issue going on here? Is there anything I missed?
Nope. I think you covered it all. I think you're good. Let's talk about CapEx. Capital expenditures. Improvements to be fixed to a fixed asset that will increase the value or useful life of the investment. So basically, it's what you're going to be budgeting for all of your improvements or maybe a roof or whatever it is, that those all fall under capital expenditures.
And you usually want to budget that similar to single family. You want to budget that up front in your purchase price. You want to set aside some money to be able to do those renovations to bring it up to where you expect it to be pro forma, right?
Correct.
Right.
And then do you want to touch on this real quick, Carolyn, value add investment?
Absolutely. So value add investment, an investment in an asset with existing cash flow and value that can be increased by raising occupancy, rents, and or added amenities. Like I mentioned before, the laundry, parking, pet fees, probably gym. Well, that's probably more Class A type of stuff, but there's so many different ways to add value to an investment. But first and foremost, we want to see how can we raise those rents.
Absolutely. And how powerful is it to add just one of these extra streams of income to your property? Can somebody answer that?
Yeah, extremely.
Very.
I mean, you saw what we did just on a little quick math of what $100 can do, right?
Right.
So, I mean, if let's say it's the same building, same 50-unit building, and we're adding pet fees. Well, let's say they have 2 pets. That's at $30 a pet per month, right? Let's say we did just that. Do the quick math.
How much did you say? $30?
Yeah, $30 pet fee.
$30 pet fee. $30 times 50 unit. Well,
That is $342,000 in value added to the property just
how
by
much?
adding 342,000.
That's wild.
Guys,
That's almost the whole house.
342,000 added on top of
That
what you're earning
calculator.
already.
That's a whole single family house.
And that's the same numbers from before, the same 50-unit, add $30 per unit, right? And that's if everyone got a dog, everyone had a dog, right? That's what we're assuming, which isn't, likely. It's probably more like half of that, right? So half of that is about 170, 171.
Or you have people like us who have 3 dogs.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. So just imagine, like, if you're, let's say, and that's cheap. I think $30 is pretty cheap, right?
Yeah,
There's places that'll charge you a minimum of $50, right? So if you think about that, guys, 340 something thousand dollars added on extra just for adding a pet fee to your property. I mean, that's amazing. Like, and then that's not including if you do a laundry or paid parking, and whatever you do, get creative with it, right? It's your property. That's amazing, bro. I don't know if we should have some fires in the chat. We need music, something, man. By itself, like, I'm gonna get a property and go add some pet fees on there. Amazing. And so these are the basic steps to start your multifamily outreach. If and when you get stuck on a lead, reach out to us. Our email's there, but I think we dropped our web form in the chat.
I will update that PDF and put the Podio link there, and I'll attach our Podio link in the post that I made this morning as well. So I also dropped it in the chat on this live, the Podio web form for Gabrielle to send to, and anyone else who has anything. That's just the easiest way for us to start analyzing and going through a potential lead you may have, just so you can enter in all the information. We can hit the ground running with it.
Perfect. We've got a question in the chat. If we're bringing a deal, will it be an equal general partner in the deal or be wholesaling it to you? I have passively invested in several multifamily deals and look into GP moving forward. So Brian's it looks like you're looking to be part of the deal if you bring one. I think this is a great question, guys. For example, everything is negotiable, right? Because we brought a great deal recently to one of our now partners in a deal in Corpus Christi, and we had to negotiate part of how to be part GP in the deal. It just depends on what you're wanting to do. If it makes sense to GP, then yeah, let's do it. or if it makes sense, if you're looking for upfront like assignment fee, then sure, let's talk about it. So it just depends on the deal. We're not opposed to either or. Just bring it, let's take a look at it, and let's talk about it.
Good answer, Oscar.
Mm-hmm. How much of that extra income on average would add additional cost to repairs because of pet damages? You want to answer why little Max is scratching on walls, Joseph?
That's funny. I mean,
Yeah,
Right.
I wouldn't see it as damaging, right? Because think about it, you should be replacing, like, bless you, let's say it's
thank you.
carpet, right? You should be replacing that carpet anyways after that tenant moves out. I mean, that's something that, a good landlord would do is to, add in the new stuff. So it should just generally already be added into your budget, and little things like, holes in the wall or damages to the wall, it's really not that big of an expense.
Right.
Your bigger expenses is going to be, water heaters, ACs, roof, if there's any foundation issues. It's very similar to single family in that aspect. The other stuff is you just want to have a renovation budget. You want to have that capex, yearly capex, to have set aside, just assuming that things are going to go wrong.
For sure.
But something as small like that, I wouldn't really worry about it too much, especially if you're cash flowing. Especially if you're cash flowing.
100%. And this goes back to when you're underwriting the deal, right? You want to stress test the deal. And what I mean by that is you're going to have different scenarios on what you're doing for this particular deal. So, for example, interest rates, we all know that they're rising, right? And they may rise, right, or they are going to rise again. So you're going to want to underwrite your deal based on actual interest rates now, and maybe, and not maybe, but when they do increase as well. So you're going to have different types of scenarios. You're going to have, okay, here's my capex, here's my budget for repairs, here's my budget for this. All that will be calculated when you do the underwriting. So I wouldn't stress too much about this, Brendan, but a typical rule of thumb would be when you underwrite a deal, for a class A, you always want to budget at least 45% expense ratio for a class A. And if you're going to do a class B or C, then you want to do a 50% expense ratio, meaning that you're going to budget 50% of what comes in was automatically going to go to expenses and repairs and property management, all that stuff. It's already going to be gone, right? And that's the typical rule of thumb. So if it underwrites like that, this question shouldn't even worry you at all.
Good
Cool.
question, though.
Yes, thank you for all the questions.
I know I love when you guys participate.
Hey, Carolyn, can you repost the web form link in the chat
Of course.
for Anthony?
Anthony says, hey guys, I have a deal under contract, 37 units, Greensboro, North Carolina, Section 8 tenants. How do I share that with you? Okay, Joseph just addressed that. We'll put the Podio link in the chat.
Yep.
That makes sense. Thank you. Cool. Appreciate that, Brendan. Thank you for that question. Thank you for all the questions. Guys, if you have any other questions, please bring them up to us right now. We're here to answer. We're here to help. We're also here to do deals with you guys. We're here to underwrite. We're here to serve you guys. So if you have anything at all, let us know. What's next?
Do we want to look at Gabrielle's? Gabrielle says it's under contract. I wasn't sure. Gabrielle, if you're still on here, did you want to are you wanting to do like a napkin underwrite on something like right now as an example, or let us know what you want.
Okay.
And is this under contract with you or with someone else?
Okay, she says I am. She's still here.
Okay.
Perfect. It's a 5-unit building for which we want to Airbnb all units. Herself and 2 partners. Okay. So for short-term rentals, I'm not the expert guy on Airbnbs, but if you have it, I guess if you're underwriting it as a long-term rental, which I think is a rule of thumb, if I'm not mistaken, then we might be able to do something here, unless you guys know about short-term rentals.
Nope. Not enough. Not enough.
Not enough.
Okay, I won't put the address on the StreamYard, but can someone look it up and see particular property?
That's a different one.
I don't know if you can copy. Oh wait, never mind.
It's a bit too high as a long-term rental. Okay.
Did you, Gabrielle, did you like look in the area on Airbnb as like what is the surrounding and if there's just to kind of base your numbers off of as a foundation? Hold on. Anybody else hear that whistling?
No, I hear it too.
What was it?
The whistling.
That's horrible.
No. It's like noise, white
It's like
noise.
wind coming through a crack of a window.
Is that my heavy breathing on the mic?
I thought that was me. No, I don't know. I
It's
noticed it
taking
too.
air.
Okay.
75 to 80% occupancy in proximity of 4 hospitals plus downtown area.
We're all like listening to it now. I don't know.
We're getting radio frequency interception.
Now we need some background music.
18 units and 19 units, 37 total. Okay. Anthony, it's two different, like it's a portfolio of 2 multifamilies? Is that what you're meaning? Okay.
Okay. While they answer those questions, as he says 2 parcels. Let's talk about. Actually, never mind. Sorry. Go ahead, Anthony. We'll underwrite this deal real quick.
Babe, mute yourself and see if it's you. No, I muted myself. It wasn't me.
Let me mute myself. Might be me.
Oh, it was Oscar.
No more talking. I'm just kidding.
That's funny. We found the culprit.
Okay.
That's funny.
Or something or what? Or is he
That's
gonna
too
put it?
quiet.
Yeah, I know.
It's okay, Oscar. We still like you. You can come back in.
Yeah, we've been dealing with it for an hour.
I kicked myself out.
That's funny.
All right.
That's so funny. You have the window open or something, man. You got some strong AC in your house. That's funny.
All right. 310.
Which one are we working on? The one from Anthony?
Yeah, he's dropping numbers in the
Okay.
gross.
I'll be right back.
Anthony, we also need expenses. So right now the gross income, that's what's coming in, right? So we need to get our NOI, it's income minus expenses. So we need to figure out what expenses is being paid on the property, not including taxes and insurance.
Or do they have NOI listed on the T12? Cool. We should I know we're wanting to stream a few times a week or maybe more, maybe I don't know. But I think it's gonna okay. I think we're gonna do like a mix of broker calls and a mix of like informational, educational stuff. And I don't know, should we like have some examples to go over? Or even if we have example numbers, like we present some examples to everyone watching, or what do you guys think? What do you want to do?
Yeah, I think we should have case studies, right? Like things that we've done before, or even like napkin underwrite some stuff in front of people. Yeah, definitely. Let's work on scheduling something like that, maybe next week or maybe this weekend, whatever works best. And let's do some case studies so everybody can see what it looks like, and also present the actual OM, rent rolls, and T12s so people know what it looks like as well.
Okay, awesome. Yay, thanks, Justin. Let's see. Brian Barrera asks, do y'all do NOI minus expenses and divide that by 8? Sorry if I came in late and if you already said this.
Where is the 8 coming from?
Oh, 8%, like 8% cap rate?
So we would divide it to find where we need to be at, what's the market value of the property, right? We would get the NOI and divide the NOI by the market cap rate. So whatever the market cap rate in that area is, that's what we would divide it by to figure out what the value of the property is.
I have a question, Joseph. Where do you find the market cap rate?
So one of the easiest ways to find it is to just call one of the brokers local to that area and ask them what the market cap rate is. That's going to be probably the most accurate, just because they're dealing with it day in, day out, right? That's what they're working on. So they'll generally have the market cap rate if they're a good broker, right? Or you can look online and just search in that area. For example, we're in Tucson, so we want to find the Tucson cap rate. We just type in Tucson multifamily cap rate and find a one for this year, and you'll find a generalized version of it. You can also look on apartmentloans.com.
Apartment loans.
Apartmentloans.com, and they generally have that available too. For the average of class buildings, right? If it's a C, usually somewhere in the 7 to 8 range. Of a B, somewhere in the 5 to 6. A, 4 to 5.5. Generalized rule of thumb. But you really want to find out what the market cap rate in that specific area is for that property.
And another one, Joseph, is to also contact a property management company. They'll know probably even better than the broker would, because they're the ones who have to perform, and they're seeing the market cap rate. So that's another thing that you can use.
Absolutely.
Okay. So thank you, Brian, for that question. Hopefully we answered you. Anthony is going to fill out the podio after the live.
That'd be perfect.
Okay. Do we want to? He gave us the expenses and the ask price and everything. Do we want to like napkin this here, or do we want to?
Where is it? For whose?
Anthony.
You could probably just napkin underwrite it real quick. Do a basis, whatever.
So his gross income is 310 and 116, 310,116. And then he said the expenses are 35,800. So then that would give the NOI, oh my gosh, of 274,316. And then what's the cap? What's the
He said 4 to 6%.
What market is it in?
yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, it's in North Carolina, I think he said.
Yeah, Greensboro.
Greensboro.
And what year was it built? Can one of you guys go to Greensboro, North Carolina, an apartment loan store, and see what the
Yeah, I got you.
cap is?
All right. Let us get that information.
Hey, Anthony, do you know the building class? Is it a class A, class B, class C, or the year built?
$1968. So that's a C.
Yeah,
Was
I'm
what?
getting a multifamily suburban for Greensboro, North Carolina. Class C is around 4.7 to 5.5.
Okay.
Um,
Was it recently renovated, Anthony, or is it like as is?
which one? Recently renovated or as is? This is a suburban area? Okay, recently renovated.
KJ still, you're muted, KJ, but still run a conservative market cap rate because we want to make sure that's close to our interest rate.
So let's say 6.5.
I would say
Five.
5.5.
I was thinking 5 would be safe.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we take that NOI, the 274, 274,316, divide that by a 5.5% cap rate.
Before you say the number, what's the purchase price on it, Anthony?
3 million.
Okay, 3 million. And what did you get, Joseph?
I got, what is it, almost 5 million.
So it's a good deal.
That would be a good deal.
Just by the napkin right now?
Mhm.
Sounds like a good deal, Anthony.
If all those numbers check out.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's just the surface level. Then we have to deep underwrite, and that's where you get into the dirty laundry sometimes.
So basically, what the napkin underwriting is for, right, is whether or not to pursue it. If the numbers don't work out doing that, like if we're way off, there's no reason to continue pursuing it.
Yeah.
But now that the numbers have checked out, it would make sense to continue working on it and do the actual underwriting, do the stress testing that Oscar was talking about, and figuring out where we need to be at and how we can make it work and move on, so on, so forth.
And Anthony, I don't know a lot about Section 8, but there was a question asked in our Zoom last night about Section 8. I would say find out what the HUD allows you to do when it comes to Section 8. Like how much can you raise their rents? Because you can't just raise it whatever you want. There's a limit that's set for it. So you want to make sure you know what that limit is for raising rents on Section 8. Again, I'm not the expert on it, but just make sure that you know what that number is if this is a deal for you or for your buyer.
I'm gonna pull another question up real quick. We find the average cap rates in the neighborhood on apartment loan store. What we do is we search apartment loan store, whatever city, cap rate, and then it'll pop up on Google and we just click on that. And then that's why we were asking the year that it is or the class, because it's going to give you class A, B, and C. So it kind of gives you an idea of where you need to be at for each one. Or you can just call a broker. It's usually just easier to call a broker to get an actual more accurate answer. But if you just want to do like we did for a quick underwrite and you just need to know real quick, you can go to apartmentloanstore.com.
I put that in the chat as well, just so
Oh, perfect.
people who want to read comments later.
Mhm.
Yay.
There you go. It's funny, I hear people, what's it called, blowing stuff outside, but like there's no grass. You have dirt.
Hey, it's not me this time.
Like, what could you be blowing? There's just rocks and dirt. Funny.
I think
Okay. Do we have any other questions? Let me see.
Is it Suchi or okay? I would think we would take a higher cap rate since it's a risky property. Section 8 tenants, age, okayish neighborhood. Am I missing something?
No, I agree with you. I think it's probably a higher cap rate too.
Yeah, me too. Same here.
You want to play it safer? More conservative?
I mean, we can run it and see what it looks like that too.
All right, what else do we have to cover, guys?
I think we covered a lot. And if anybody else has any questions, we'd be happy to answer questions. Have a little short Q&A here before we hop off.
Yeah, like if there's any terminology or things that we've talked about that maybe I know sometimes we get into talking and like we just assume people know what we're talking about. We forget that like we didn't know in the beginning either. So if there's anything you guys need help with, let us know.
Thoughts on short-term rental with multifamily properties. Have 3 that I'm looking to purchase in Norfolk, Virginia, Ocean View.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
no, this has been a good this is a good question because I only know of one person doing this, and for myself, I don't have enough knowledge to say too much to talk about on this particular subject. But I know that the property that they acquired in Columbus, Georgia, and what I mean by that is Keston and his partners. I think part of it they were doing short-term rentals on it, and I think that's something that we would like to do in the future too because it brings up opportunity, in my opinion. Like maybe you can do a little section of it just short-term rentals for like maybe a corporate housing or maybe traveling nurses. I think it's a good discussion to have. I don't know enough, but I would say pursue it. I think it's an opportunity for sure.
We would like to obviously dig into more information about what it looks like to have short-term rentals in a multifamily property. So we're going to do our own little due diligence on that, and we'll come back and do a live and dive deeper into that topic because, yeah, just like Oscar said, that's something that we want to pursue as well. Like, how much more cash flow can we get off that thing, I would say just starting basics, like find your Airbnb comps. Like, does it support it? I see on Airbnb all the time apartments, like literal apartment units on Airbnb. So it's definitely possible. I would probably, I don't know, like I don't think there's too many restrictions or anything like that. Like you would be creating your own platform for that. So I wouldn't say there would be potential things to worry about other than the fact of like you have to factor in maybe more expenses for those particular units. If you're like wanting to do a section of short-term rentals for 5 units, you're going to have a lot more expenses added in, like your cleaning, maintenance, people damaging your stuff and everything like that versus a long term. So that would probably be the big thing to factor in considering that. Like your expenses are going to change a lot. And obviously the cash flow to support it.
That's a good answer.
You guys see that at 8%, what it would be?
So it's still a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's where that's also like was just top of mind. That was me using the website, which isn't always accurate, which is why we say call brokers. And then we also dig deeper into financials, and that's where we would and photos and things like that. And then we'd be like, okay, let's adjust the cap rate in that sense.
So really quick, Joseph, can you do? I know that we did this at the beginning of the when we started the podcast, but can you give everyone an example again of what it looks like to say have 50 units and just a rent increase of $100? So what that can do for you in multifamily?
Absolutely. So if we were to, here's the math. Here's the quick math, right? So it's 50 units by the amount of upside, which is $100, times the occupancy rate, which we always want to assume 5% vacant, and then by the amount of months in a year, which is 12. So that's the equation. Right? There we go. That's the equation. That's how much it would give us in a year, right? And then we divide that by the cap rate. So we're just assuming 5% cap rate.
I'm so glad we have an underwriter with us today.
Boom. That's how much potential value added just from raising the rents of every one of those apartments by $100.
Okay, so it was 50 times 100 times 0.95 times 12, right?
Correct.
Equals 100 and what? I'm
It
like
should
gonna
be,
type the equation in the
it should
thing.
be 57,000, and then divide the income for the year. You divide that by the cap rate. So it should be 1,140,000.
Isn't that awesome?
Freaking awesome. And
A
then
million outside.
Justin also asked what pro forma means. Pro forma is, in simple terms, right? Single family has ARV. That's the most it could sell for. That's the best value it could get. That's what pro forma means as well. Pro forma just means if I fix this up to as best it could be, based on the market, this is the most that I could get for this unit. That's what pro forma means.
Dave, explain why we don't purchase the price at Performa. We purchase at actuals, because I loved your answer the other day. It was a good
So
explanation.
So brokers are always going to want you to buy on pro forma. They're going to want you to buy on the potential that the property can do, right? And that's similar to sellers. Sellers want you, they're like, "Oh, well, my house is worth this because you could do this, you could do this. It's in a great location, it's this," right? Well, none of that really matters because you're buying at market value. You're buying at what the actual property is doing, the actual numbers it's bringing in, the NOI, right? You always want to buy based on actuals, not pro forma. That's super important to remember because they're always going to want you to buy on pro forma. And the reason we don't buy on pro forma is because you're buying the property based on what the seller or whoever has property, you're buying that property based on what it is currently doing, how much money it's bringing you in right now. That's what you're buying the property based off of. Everything else after all the pro forma, all that extra, the rent increase, all the valuation that we're showing that you could add, this extra $1 million, that is your reward for taking on the project and putting in the effort to bring it up to pro forma, to putting in your value. You're adding value to the property because you know what you're doing. You're increasing the rents. You're fixing up the property or adding pet fees, whatever it is you're doing, that extra pro forma, that's your reward. That's your benefit for buying the property. So remember that.
Yeah, why should they get rewarded?
Exactly. If
Awesome.
you're the one doing the work, why, exactly what she said, why should they get rewarded? If you're the one doing the work, why would you not get to reap all those benefits? You're the one that took on the risk. You put in the time and the effort to raise the price, to raise the value of the property. You should reap those benefits.
Boom.
Love it.
Great answer. Great question, Justin. Thank you. Yeah. Any newbie question, whatever, please share. Would you use Rentometer for rents in the area to push the rents more?
Well, now I have another question. Do you call it rentometer or is it rentometer? Because I always say rentometer.
I call it rentometer.
And
Well, I just think of like odometer.
Yeah.
I don't say odometer. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just how it comes out. Sorry, guys.
No, I mean, I say a lot of things wrong, so
Well,
could be
I
me.
just sorry, I totally derailed us there, but I totally thought it was Wintometer this whole time.
I mean, with this question, I think using multiple resources is the way to go. When we were running comps for Corpus, or when I was doing it, I went around to the local apartments and I found apartments that looked similar to the one that we were purchasing or doing a deal on. And I was like, okay, which ones look most similar? And then I went and looked, because you could go rent an apartment online. So usually they have their rent rates there. So I'll go look, or you can call property managers and ask them, or you can call the apartment themselves. Instead of, sometimes they don't show it online, call them up and ask them. You can use that website. I think having multiple resources is better than just using one. Kind of get an average.
for sure.
And
I agree.
our mentor did touch on it, but that is the most accurate way to go find the pro forma or what it could rent for, is to go to similar apartments in the area and go in as a prospective tenant. Like, hey, I'm looking to rent here. I want to tour the apartments. And you want to find some that are similar to what you're looking at buying, and then just figure out what they're charging. What are these other people charging, and how does it compare to your apartment?
Perfect. Love those. And I'm not sure why my comments aren't showing on here, but Andrew has a question on the math that you did for the value add, Joseph. He says, why does the value add get divided by the cap rate?
Because the cap rate, what it is the percentage of return. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think there was a slide about it. But basically, what the cap rate means is that it is the comparison, the ratio of how much money you are bringing in, how much you are actually bringing in, and compared to the dollar amount, right? So the reason we divide it by the cap rate is because that's how the properties are valued at. When you're underwriting a property, you're using the cap rate to figure out. So, for example, when we valued the property before, we took the NOI, divided it by the cap rate, right? So we're essentially doing that same math, but we're replacing NOI with the potential upside. So it was the amount of units times the dollar amount of upside times the occupancy rate times the number of months. So that same little formula or section, we're just replacing the NOI for that amount instead, which was 57,000. So that is the dollar amount that it's actually coming in, right? Because NOI is net operating income. So that is the dollar amount that's coming in minus your expenses, right? So if we're going to be adding an extra $57,000 on top of the NOI, well, we still want to do the same formula to figure out the extra value being added to the property. Because that's not, so when we divide it, that's not the cash amount. That's not the dollars coming in, right? The dollars coming in is 57,000, right? But we want to figure out how much an increase of income of 57,000. We want to figure out how much more worth the property is, right? We want to see how much extra dollar amounts for selling the property. What is that amount? So that is this valuation. I hope I explained that well.
No, yeah.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
I know.
I think if anyone else doesn't, I mean, if you guys have any more questions, please pop them in there. But I think we'll be hopping off and getting to our underwriting that we have for the day.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, we'll probably come back on to do broker calls too. If anybody wants to join me.
Definitely should, because now we got a lot of golden nuggets to use on the phones.
Mm-hmm.
I know,
Yep.
I'm excited.
You'll see us use everything we talked about in that form earlier, and you'll see it in action live, and you guys will get to hear that conversation. yesterday I made a few. If you guys want to go back, we can probably link it in the chat or send it to you guys later. But I got the 3 documents that we talked about: the OM, the rent rolls, and the T12s, and you get to hear all that live on yesterday's call. But we'll also do some more so you guys can listen to those and get an idea how to talk to brokers.
Also, give us some love. This is our Instagram handles. You guys want to follow us, and find us on Facebook if you don't already. And we got YouTube channels if you want to follow too. That's where these videos are also being broadcasted live on YouTube as well. If you guys want to join in there anytime.
Thank
Justin,
you, George.
your question, how do you calculate cap rates? We reverse engineered a cap rate on an example deal that Joseph gave me. Basically what you do is you take your NOI and you divide it by the purchase price, and that'll give you the cap rate that they used. So whatever that number is, NOI divided by your purchase price, that'll give you that cap rate.
And then you'll compare it against your market cap rate once you look at price. Yeah.
And cap rates are like opinions. Everyone's got them. They're all different. Everyone can tell you one thing or another, but you want to compare it. Whatever their asking cap rate is, you want to compare that to the market cap rate. And the market cap rate it's the ARV essentially, right? We want to, everyone, like, it's the same thing. People have different ARVs all the time, but an ARV is based on what the market is actually doing and what can it actually be sold for. Same thing with cap rate. There's a market cap rate because that is what's actually happening in the market. That's what these property managers, that's what they're seeing, the rate of return in the properties that they're managing. So
Cool.
you want to compare what they're asking to the market one.
Thank you. Thank you, Justin.
Well, awesome, man. We've been on here an hour and a half.
I know, time goes by fast.
Yeah,
I know.
I love all the interaction and the questions, and we definitely want to keep this rolling and, provide as much value as we can to you guys. We're still learning too.
Yeah, definitely.
We're still on our learning journey. We just want to share it.
Yeah. Well, our family is fixing to leave, so we want to go say goodbye to them before we get started back with you guys in a little bit for broker calls.
For sure.
I think now would be a good time to reconvene if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah.
That'll work.
We'll blast out alerts whenever we go live again. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for tuning in and interacting and engaging.
Guys, follow us on Instagram, please. Everyone has their handle on here. Please follow us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Love you all.
Thanks,
See you later.
guys.
Hope this was helpful.
Bye, guys.